Let your kids what's it?
Welcome everyone to the UndercoverBrony Reviews. The episode reviewed today will be Top Remodel, written by Leor Barris. Hey, what's up guys? This is John from the UndercoverBrony, and we are back for more Make Your Mark Chapter 4 reviews. I know we have been gone for quite a long time, had to take an extended leave of absence due to creative burnout, but we are back. I am very excited, and you may notice that the person next to me is not the same person that we had, not the same people we had on last time. They unfortunately were not able to come back currently, but they are still available to come back if they so choose. But here I have my friend Overlord. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, John. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. So he's going to be joining me on these reviews for the time being, and we'll get started. So this episode, not the worst episode, certainly not the best episode, but I will say this is the last mid-episode in Chapter 4. After this, it gets really fucking good. So let's get started. It is called Top Remodel, which is an interesting play on words with, top model, obviously. But the fact that they're doing it as a top remodel with them remodeling canon logic, I find it a really interesting title. It starts off with all of the new 5 going into canon logic, and they're all thinking about how spooky it is over here and all weird. And I love what Izzy does here. She says,
not that it isn't totally cool to be in a freaky empty building, but it is kind of freaky and empty. See, I didn't even mean to do that.
I also really like with this that we have Pip's characterization from Tell Your Tale on full display here. She's definitely talking about how much she loves spooky things and all the kind of scary motifs. I love that characterization carries on here from Tell Your Tale. I also like that Pip over here, she goes and hangs down like a bat with her hair coming all the way down, and it's simultaneously adorable and really, really funny.
Yeah, it kind of brings you back to when Fluttershy ended up turning into a bat, didn't it?
It did, and it also reminds me of Philly Vanilli when she's hanging upside down asking for Rarity when she has the Flutter Guy voice.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yep. So I do also have to say, Hitch over here shuffling along on 3 hooves and making a Ghostbusters reference.
This is just an old building made of bricks and concrete. Besides, even if it weren't, I'm not afraid of no ghosts.
That was perfect, and he said it exactly the way that he should. Is where I'm afraid of no ghosts, like perfectly in sync with how you would have it in Ghostbusters. Now, didn't you say that your dad was big on Ghostbusters?
Oh, yeah, he absolutely loves the series. He has seen pretty much every single movie that has ever been released, and he is a big, nerd, more or less.
Does he have a favorite character from the series?
He does. I don't recall the name of them, unfortunately, but it's like one of the main characters from the original cast. I think it was like the guy who's kind of running the whole Ghostbusters operation, But yeah, he absolutely loves that character.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I have to notice that I absolutely love here is the fact that my shipping artist is having some good here. We have shipping between Sunny and Hitch, which makes sense. They're good childhood friends, but also Pip and Hitch, because for anyone who knows me, Pitch is my OTP in this series, and it gives my shipping art some good to see that happening. I know there's a lot of people out there that really love talking about Zip and Hitch, but no, that doesn't buy that. I don't buy that. I buy Pitch a lot more than Zip and Hitch.
Yeah, I would say this episode actually made some pretty good demonstrations of how the two of them kind of mesh really well with each other. It was just really cool kind of seeing their dynamic kind of expand as the episode went on.
I also really love what Izzy says here.
How are you all so calm.
Oh, I'm not. This is just my nervous smile. It looks a lot like my happy smile, and also my unhappy smile.
And here's the first downside of this episode. Not necessarily from the episode itself, but the fact is, I really, really, really miss the characterization of Hitch from the original movie. Because I have to say right here, they took his characterization, flushed it down the toilet, and made it simply Dragon Dad. Which, look, if that was just added to his character, I would have been a lot more fine with it. But the fact that they took the entire rest of his character, made him into a scary cat, he is a cop, for God's sakes. He should be way past stuff like this.
Yeah, I gotta say in the movie, he seemed like he was a lot more confident in his day-to-day activities or just trying to approach different problems that were kind of coming up. But with this one, he kind of leaned a lot into being scared over things, and it didn't really seem like it was. Hitch. You know, maybe Hitch was having a bad day or something when this episode was taking place. But
yeah,
it was definitely a different Hitch I ended up seeing in this episode.
Yeah, and so the episode continues on. And now we are looking at the two, well, I would say 3 plots here. The A plot is Hitch and Pip talking about spooky things and trying to figure out what's going on in Psychanologic. You have the B plot, which is Sunny and Izzy going about the town trying to get all the ideas for the new place. And then you have the C plot, which is obviously Misty and Opaline. And what's interesting about this is we get a little bit more lore here. And Opaline is talking about the crystals. And Misty suggests, why can't they just steal the crystals instead of stealing the dragonfire? And Opaline explains how these gems are like conduits to each other, that when put together they create the prisbeam, and if they try and get taken before Opaline has her full strength, it can cause them to malfunction and not work anymore. And I find it interesting because for anyone who knows me, and obviously from the back, I am a huge Zelda nerd, so the fact that they have kind of this Triforce-esque sort of deal going on with these things, I find it really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how this whole episode just seems to be like making a ton of references to all sorts of different things as far as like the lore goes, or different pop culture references like Ghostbusters. Kind of interesting to see those comparisons being made here.
For sure. Going into the B plot where Izzy and Sunny are trying to get all the ideas from the town, I find it to be a very interesting dilemma. Because on one hand, you do want to take everyone's, thoughts and feelings into consideration. However, the inverse of that is trying to find what's best for the community as a whole. Because look, individual ideas are great. And in the small scale, it's fantastic. But when you pump it up to a larger and larger scale, it causes a lot of issues, logistically speaking.
Oh yeah, especially too when you're taking a whole city into consideration. I mean, you could be talking about many, many different kinds of people have all sorts of different ideas about how something should look. It's just not possible to make everybody happy. And I think one of the things that they kind of highlighted really well within this episode was showing that when you try to make everybody happy, it can be a little maddening. Because there's also a lot of references to Izzy and Sunny as they were trying to kind of figure out like how are they going to implement all these different kinds of ideas, just kind of getting overwhelmed by it, just trying really hard to figure out, well, how can we incorporate this without conflicting with that? And and the end product is that things just didn't really mesh well together. It was kind of unfortunate, and they tried their best, but I think it just kind of serves as a reminder that we just can't always take everyone's ideas and implement them all together like that. Sometimes there has to be give and take.
For sure. And I also like how it's interesting in one aspect, but it's also kind of infuriating in the other, with the fact that Izzy is kind of being like a yes pony. However, she's overwhelming herself while doing so. Because here's the thing. When she talks in that really pained and high-pitched and nervous voice, it tells you she is stressed to hell. The problem is she doesn't know how to say no, and because of that, it's very difficult for her to actually get things done and be creative because she can't say no.
Yep, she's more or less letting other people make the decisions for her without necessarily realizing it. And sometimes saying no is one of the most empowering things you can do. And I kind of wish I would have seen Izzy actually kind of say no to some of those things they were coming up with.
Absolutely. But you know what? Maybe we'll see some characterization like that coming up later on in the series.
Hopefully. I think it'd be good character development.
Absolutely. 100%. So moving back over to the A plot, I love how Pip is talking about this book series where it's like this pony is like trying to find a ghost of her grandmother, but she really finds the ghost of her great-grandmother. It's interesting lore. The fact that they have a book series like that, possibly, I would say probably based off of something akin to Agatha Christie, something along those lines. It's interesting that they have that kind of lore with a book series like that being sort of like mystery / light horror elements in those books.
Yeah, it definitely fit in well with the theme of the episode, too. You had a bunch of references like ghosts and different kind of spooky things that were going on. I really do like it when they kind of, insert additional lore to, like, a given universe, through that kind of an element. So it's just really neat to kind of see that get put in there.
And then they discover that Sprout is afoot. And I have to say, I like how the voice actor sounds very similar to Ken Jeong. They brought a good mimic voice actor for Sprout because he sounds very, very similar to how he sounded in the movie. However, he's just as much of an asshole, just as much of a character that you just love to hate. And it's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's really not much of a difference between how this Sprout is versus the one that we saw in the movie there.
Now, it makes me wonder, logistically speaking, did the bank take over Canologic when it got shut down? Because we find out a little bit later, it's now infested with rats, and there's junk everywhere. So I gotta wonder, did the bank, the Equestrian Bank, repossess Canologic after it was shut down and closed for business?
Something we might find out in a later episode.
Potentially. I don't know if they'd want to work into the political side of that, but I mean...
Probably not, no.
I mean, My Little Pony hasn't been ashamed to talk about, politics in some form or fashion in the past, so it might happen. I remember specifically in Daring Done.
Cloudsdale election heating up for candidate in favor of cooling it down. What? Oh, let me see that. I never knew you were so into politics, Rainbow.
That's always really cool to see that. But, I mean, at the same time, too, I'm kind of glad they keep politics, for the most part, kind of out of the series. Because, it's one of those, at the end of the day, I think we all just kind of like to sit down and just watch shows like this, just to kind of go on a nice little adventure. And sometimes politics can add a bit of an unnecessary twist.
Oh, I agree for sure, because this is definitely, this and Bluey especially, are both the type of shows that want to provide an escapism for individuals who want to watch it. Because here's the thing, there's a lot of things wrong in our society, and a lot of times people just want to turn their brain off and just enjoy and escape from reality. And I feel like this, for the most part, allows you to escape from your reality for just a little bit of time.
Oh yeah, at least in 20-minute bites, right?
Exactly. Now, Zip is trying to figure out what's going on with Twilight's message, and she pulls out this book, and I have to wonder, if you look on the front of the book, it shows a tree there, and I have to wonder, now this is going to be spoilers for future chapters, but considering this episode is coming out a while later after those episodes have come out, I wonder if this is a first reference to a together tree.
It just might be. We'll have to wait and see, though, won't we?
Mm-hmm. Then it cuts over to Misty building this little unicorn out of junk. Like, it has a tennis ball for a head. It has googly eyes. It has a little bridalwood crystal for the horn. And it is downright hilarious. And I also love how when she's talking to it, every time the camera cuts over to the junk unicorn, all audio cuts out. Like, complete and utter silence. It is hilarious.
I feel pretty silly talking to a unicorn made of junk, but I just have to have some pony to talk to about Opaline.
I really do like, though, how Misty is just so creative and, crafting, like, basically like an individual she can have a conversation with to kind of talk through, like, a dilemma that she's having. That's just something that I've really admired about her character, too, over the several episodes that she's been in, is she always has this really unique way of trying to process some sort of a moral dilemma she's going through. And seeing her kind of build this little, to me, it almost kind of looks like a snowman in a way. Seeing her build that and kind of talk it out was just kind of like the icing on the cake, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting to see because with how Misty's upbringing was, being found as a filly by Opaline and kind of growing up in that, very masochistic and dysfunctional parent-child relationship, it's interesting to see how Misty kind of processes her information in a different way. Because really thinking about it, this is not something that a kid would normally do. Sure, they would make imaginary friends. However, I don't think they would really try and solve dilemmas with that imaginary friend. It would be more of someone to play with and imagine with.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, a lot of people who grow up in a healthy family dynamic would be talking these issues out with their parents or maybe extended families like aunts and uncles or siblings, if you have a brother like I do. But yeah, seeing a character build essentially an imaginary friend to kind of work through a moral dilemma, it kind of shows how not having that proper parent-child dynamic can really affect somebody.
Mm-hmm. Now, it switches back over to Hitch and Pip trying to get the rats that are infesting Canner Logic out.
Remember when all the animals were in the Bright House?
Yeah.
And we couldn't get them to leave?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have a solution. But this is exactly like that.
That's hilarious. I find it interesting here that Pip is speaking her mind in a way. However, she doesn't really understand that it's not helping anything. And the fact that it almost is like her wanting to just hear herself talking away.
Yeah, we have at least one person in our lives who's definitely like that, where, they're trying to talk through something, they're talking it out loud, but it's almost like they're just kind of wanting to hear themselves speak. And that's kind of what Pip was doing here.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on, when Sprout decides to try and evict the rats, and he keeps getting knocked back and getting his ass kicked. It gave my heart some joy to see his ass getting kicked because it's hilarious to watch.
I mean, that whole scene made me wonder, though, why weren't they in the movie? If they would have been in there in the movie, they probably could have prevented Sprout from doing all these shenanigans,
Yeah, I don't know.
Better late than ever, right?
Exactly. You still got his ass getting kicked here. But I also have to say that the fact that Pip mentions how, dude, you had a giant robot that went and destroyed Sunny's lighthouse. And how Sprout's just like,
I thought we all agreed to move past that?
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, it is not something you could just brush under the rug. Sorry to say.
Does that kind of bring to mind, though, where it's, have you ever seen those videos where the caption is, it's just a prank, bro, and then the video plays where it's the actual prank itself? That's kind of what popped into my mind when Sprout was talking about that. It's just a prank, bro. And then it's this really drastic thing.
It is reminding me a lot of those like shock humor YouTube channels that were all over the place in the mid-aughts, that they were basically talking about, oh yeah, it's just a prank, bro. But they were literally putting people in serious, harmful danger. And it's like, you're taking it too far, my man.
Yeah, it's not a prank anymore.
Sonny and Izzy keep getting all this stuff. They try and make it work, but it obviously doesn't. And I love how Izzy just looks around and she's all stressed, and then she's like,
Ta-da!
no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Sorry to say.
That's all right, though. At least she eventually, was able to kind of embrace the craziness that, was the end result of that whole process. But I think it was really cool too, just kind of seeing seeing her trying her best, and she just kind of acknowledged, like, yeah, this just didn't work out. But I'm gonna try and pass it off as with a smile, anyways.
Yeah, she's like, I don't know how it'll work, but fuck it, I'm gonna try anyway.
Doesn't hurt to try, right?
Yep. Now, I do have to say here, when Izzy channels Elderflower, which it's interesting that Elderflower is mentioned this early on because we find out about her a lot more later on. But the fact that Izzy impersonates her in this way, putting the little flower crown on and starts talking like her, saying,
You can't please every pony, Izzy. Sometimes being a leader means making the tough decisions, Izzy. You, Izzy, must take every pony's opinion under your hoof and then make the final call, Izzy. Just change the Izzy part to a Sunny part.
Yeah, I figured.
that is hilarious how she said that.
I really do like that phrasing, though. You have to take everyone's opinions into considerations, but it's you who makes that final call. And I think that's something about leadership people don't always realize. You're an individual who's been given responsibility of a specific task, and it's on you to try and take into consideration what everyone is bringing forth in front of you, but it's you who gets to make that final call at the end of the day. And it's just kind of a nice reminder for everyone that that's the responsibility of being a leader.
For sure. And I also find it interesting that it plays into the lesson of the episode, which it's doing the best for everyone instead of one thing for each individual. Because you could still take all that input into account from the individuals, but at the end of the day, you want to find out what's best for the larger majority of people and how it could work best for the larger majority of people.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a balancing act, and it's really hard to sometimes get that perfect balance, and you can only ever try your best to get to that point. But I think what was really neat, though, is after they saw what ended up happening, after they kind of executed the original plan, which was make everybody happy, it was really cool to see them acknowledge that didn't work. Let's try something a little bit different. Let's try and take a little bit of something that will make most of the people happy and implement that, and it seemed like it worked a lot better.
So then Pip and Hitch come across the rats again, and they're beat to hell. They're like, we don't know what we're going to do. And they do this exaggerated sigh. And all of a sudden, the rats harmonize that sigh. And they're like, let's try something here. So they start harmonizing. Pip and Hitch start harmonizing, causing the rats to harmonize again. And they start in this impromptu song, which isn't that bad. And it helps lead them out of the Canologic building. But one thing I have to say about this song that really messed with my head a little bit, the fact that Sparky at one point is just like jiving like he's walking down a runway. It was like, what the fuck?
Kind of had to do a double take on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. My God, that was weird. Like, we had to go back a couple times and be like, did we see that right? Because that's weird. When they go into the new Canologic building, I love the little Unity crystal door handles they give for it. Gives it a nice little flair. And the fact that they have it as like a multifunctional studio setup was a really good way of going about it, because that allows you to, in some ways, have your cake and eat it too, because you can have it be multifunctional to where if someone wants to do this and someone wants to do that, they can, in addition to the fact that you can still do what you need to do, but if someone wants to do something different, you can still have that there as well.
Absolutely. Less is more in this case. Definitely as you watch the episode, you're going to see it go from a very cluttered, very congested mess to kind of something that's nice and streamlined and can be repurposed for a lot of different functions if you really want to.
Mm-hmm. And the episode ends off with Misty, where she is talking again to this weird amalgamation junk unicorn about how Opaline doesn't like strawberry smoothies, even though they're the best flavor ever.
Well, I mean, at least she has somebody that she can talk about that with, because, yeah, I gotta say, strawberry smoothies are easily one of the best flavors out there.
Mm-hmm. Strawberry banana smoothies are really good as well.
Regular banana smoothies are also really good. I always like to put a little bit of almond milk in there, and it just has a nice little flavor to it.
For sure. The only smoothies that I cannot stand are like the ones that you get the protein powder and it's like peanut butter flavor. It's disgusting. Like, oh.
You ever see that video where the guy is like, and we'll just add a scoop of protein, and then he's like, and for the next ingredient, we'll add a scoop of protein. Imagine having a protein shake where it's like, 17 scoops of protein in there.
So then it's Epic Mealtime Protein Shake Edition.
Yeah, at least you get your protein in for the week at that point.
Yeah, protein in, like single hour, you get your protein in for the week. Like, perfect. And finally, that one I have in my notes here is I love how Misty named the junk unicorn Madam Taffytail. That is hilarious.
It's definitely like a nice little segue into a fantastic name for a amazing amalgamation of junk. I don't think I could have named her better myself, personally.
Nope. Is there any more notes you want to mention before we end off?
I think we touched on the biggest ones here. I think it's just the big thing that we all have to kind of remember is that it's always good to try and listen to what other people have to say. And you should always try your best to, try and make people happy. But sometimes you just got to compromise. And it's just reality is when you compromise, you won't always get what you need or what you want.
Mm-hmm. So now we get to our scoring. And since it's been a while since we've done any sort of review, I kind of want to go over again how the scoring works. So for me, it is going to be a 1 to 10. And for me, if something is a 6 or below, that's where an episode starts to get really bad, really forgettable. If anyone saw the Make Your Mark, the original Make Your Mark special review, which, by God, I am sorry you had to deal with that. The episode, not the review, but the episode, because God, that was awful. I gave that one a 4 because it's like, man, this thing sucked. However, for something like this, I would actually give this a 7 out of 10. It had some enjoyable moments. The animation, for the most part, was pretty smooth. The story and the lesson were actually handled really maturely. And overall, I think it was a pretty decent episode. What about you?
Yeah, I think, so for me, I kind of like to do more of like a 1 to 5 kind of scale. So like 1 is just I would never want to watch it again. I loathe it when I see it coming up on my, next available episode kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Number 2, it's just a filler episode, not really great, but, I'm not necessarily going to skip it either. It's just background noise. Number 3, typical run-of-the-mill episode. Don't really like it, don't really hate it. Just average, I would say number 4, it's an episode that I would get really excited for. But I won't necessarily go out of my way to try and search for it if I want to find something to watch. And number 5 would just be like, wow, it just kind of blew my expectations. It's an episode that I would love to come back to, and I will go out of my way to try and watch it. I think for me, I would probably say this episode would land on number 3. It's almost kind of creeping up to a number 4 there, mostly because of the kind of lesson it was trying to teach, which is, trying to, essentially be like a good leader. And I also really like the fact, too, that it kind of showed, the kind of things that Misty was going through. The way that Misty kind of tries to, process the different moral dilemmas that she's running into. And I really like the way that they handled that, because it just kind of goes to show that if you don't have that proper parent-child kind of relationship, that's probably something that you're going to end up going into at some point. And I think they just handled that part really well, personally.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this this wonderful review. As you saw, I hope you saw, I will put a link in the description for it, but I did put a community post up that is basically saying these are only going to be coming out once a month because I do not want my creative burnout to happen again. I want to be able to take my time with these episodes and edit them in a nice, even pace so that I'm not stressed out the entire time I'm editing. So, until next time, that's it from me, John.
And that's it from me, Overlord.
And we will talk to you guys later. Peace out, Dragon.
Thanks for having me.